they articulate is the college and career, that all graduates of Oakland Unified High Schools graduate to be college and career ready. And so what you're looking at is a breakdown of what that goal looks like in measurable activities. And it might be a little bit hard to see, so I'll pop onto some of the main ones here. Increasing the four-year cohort graduation rate by 2 percentage points, and you'll see the progress here from 60 to 64%. This green color here indicating that the target has been exceeded, and I won't go through all of these, but just a couple other examples. Increasing the A to G completion rate with a grade of C or better by 2 percentage points. Again, nice job, Oakland, exceeding their targets there. And they've also used this table to identify areas of improvement and to communicate that, right, to their communities and their local stakeholders. Increasing percentage of students scoring college ready on early assessment programs in math by 3 percentage points annually. They're still working on that goal. So you'll see here, even in the summary portion of the document, really using this as a tool to communicate to stakeholders where they're at and where they'd like to be. This slide and the following ones will depict an example of how to illustrate and organize activities that support linked learning implementation within a school district. Local control accountability plans are also where the template was developed with the intent of providing schools flexibility to identify priority areas within their own district that have materialized through their own district experiences and instructional implementation. And an example of this right here, you'll see that we're still in goal number 1. We're still in the local, we are still in the local control accountability plans. We are still in the college and career ready graduate goal here. And Oakland has gone ahead and identified particular student subgroups that they are really watching and monitoring and hoping to use their LCFS expenditures to really impact these student subgroups. AMO means annual measurable outcomes. So you'll see here that they've broken down, they've aggregated their expectations, and also it's disaggregated by student subgroup here. This particular goal, increasing the student career pathway participation by 5 percentage points annually for grades 10 through 12. So another example of, yes, linked learning is used as a comprehensive district strategy to hopefully impact and really uplift all the high school students and beyond to college and career success, but also is being used as a strategy here to target some of the most vulnerable populations. Within their LCAP, Oakland has established, and this, I'm sure this office existed before LCFF, but this is how it's structured within their document, the Office of Post-Secondary Readiness. And I'm not going to read that entire paragraph to you. I don't have that type of energy on a Monday, but you'll see that within this Office of Post-Secondary Readiness, linked learning is clearly articulated here as that overall comprehensive approach. And you'll just see here as a narrative kind of the foundation and impetus for establishing this office. And then in the same pane, and this can be found actually, by the way, on page 42 or 43 of Oakland's Local Control Accountability Plan. So they've articulated their overall foundation and intent for this office, and then over here you'll see kind of the overall and aggregate expenditures that are really being devoted to this work, devoted to maintaining the quality and increasing the quality of the college and career pathway opportunities. When you start to break down, and the reason for this slide is that there's pages and pages of these positions, so I'll just name a few. And the job titles that you see here really make up the majority of the types of positions that you will see in that office. So there's a director and manager of college and career pathways to continue to really provide comprehensive and centralized support for the district, implementing linked learning, which is important as they're kind of transitioning from pathway here, pathway there, pathway in some of our schools to really, as Sasha was mentioning earlier, their goal, I believe it's by 2020, is to have wall-to-wall linked learning pathways within their district, which means that all high school students will be enrolled in a linked learning pathway. Additionally, they have positions that are devoted to business partnerships, and that, excuse me, there's a couple high-level people at the district, and there are also personnel that work in the day-to-day to really make sure that the business engagement is really a constant part of linked learning implementation and activity. That continues on to the work-based learning piece. You'll have coordinators and liaisons both at the district and both at the school site to continue to advance linked learning within the day-to-day. Additional personnel areas include summer bridge and after-school programs, concurrent enrollment for the establishment of concurrent enrollment opportunities and dual enrollment opportunities for those students within pathways, and additionally, a person that's assigned to civic readiness, and ensuring that that's also part of the educational experience. And so, and lastly, kind of some of the finer details, the devil's in the details, right? We have some non-labor expenditures around teacher externships, materials, and case management. So I know I just popped a lot of popcorn, went all over the place. When you take a few steps back here and you're looking at this list, you're definitely seeing all in one place the linked learning 4 pillars really being implemented here. You have, assurances that the quality instruction is happening, that these students are really being prepared for college and career through their instruction. You're also ensuring that partnership establishment is occurring to ensure the sustainability of linked learning, but also that as many students as possible are having access to work-based learning opportunities during their time within linked learning. And again, those can be found on pages 43 to 47 of Oakland Unified's Local Control Accountability Plan. As we were going through Oakland Unified's LCAP and searching for examples of linked learning, a little surprise came up for us. We expected, or mostly myself I would say, expected to mostly see linked learning in college and career pathways mentioned in goal number 1, right? Within the goal of ensuring college and career readiness for all students. But right now, if you look at the second row of the accountability plan of this expenditure, or of this page, you'll see that we've popped over to goal number 6, which is around parent and guardian leadership development. Loosely related to linked learning, but not as explicitly as career pathway development. So right here, we're in the section of the Office of Communications, which I don't know if you guys can read that small writing, but it's the Office of Communications oversees all strategic communications, and including internal and external communications to parents, families, community members, partner agencies, and media. So lots of external relations work, lots of parent engagement work. When you scroll down within the plan, you'll see a position of a full-time position, of a producer. So it's someone that they're an integral part of the pathway program. They're also responsible at the district level for documenting the engagement sessions that they have with community members, such as the superintendent's community forum on the English learner roadmap, and also advancing the goal of, it says, our goal is to ensure that if a community member cannot attend one of our engagement sessions, they will have access through multimedia to access the information. So at first glance, another district staff member, but what you're looking is, the linked learning leadership in Oakland ensured that this person would also be part of the student pathway experience. And this is really important because many school districts employ such a plethora of different types of positions, and as a result, have a lot of expertise in-house. And it was really amazing to see Oakland Unified tap into that. It's not an additional cost to the district to have some of their personnel really partner and be involved in linked learning and provide opportunities for the students within those pathways in a myriad of different ways. Linked learning not only provides sector-specific career training, but also provides opportunities for the development of 21st century skills that would be adaptable and applicable to a number of different post-secondary settings. I'm going to kick it back to Sasha to talk a little bit about state indicators.
Thanks, Anna. A lot of detail there. Yeah. So everyone, we will make this available at the end, and of course, the Oakland Unified's LCAP is available on their website at all. So if you do want to dive deeply and refer back to it, that resource is available. So talking about state indicators, every LEA must follow the same LCAP framework, which is largely built around a mix of state and local indicators. Focusing here on the state indicators, we are looking at uniform standards used to measure all schools and districts across the state. So the state publishes the results of these indicators online at the California School Dashboard. This is a new website at caschool-dashboard.org, and the link will be available at the end of the presentation as well. While there, anyone can look up how well a school is performing across student subgroups. The data also tells you how well the group is doing based on absolute performance terms and how much it's growing or not from year to year. Student outcome data is updated annually. For linked learning, one of the most important indicators has been the college career indicator. Fundamentally, linked learning is about preparing students to be ready for college and career at the time they graduate. And on this slide, you'll see some of the metrics being used to classify students as prepared, approaching prepared, or not prepared. Those are the only 3 tiers being used in the indicator at this time, although a 4th indicator, well prepared, is anticipated to be used in the future. Conversations about more career readiness elements are in progress at the state board and within the California Department of Education. And with that, I'd like to introduce the newest member of our linked learning team, Sarah Petrowski, who will discuss how linked learning analytics can assist districts in reporting on their annual measurable outcomes.
Good morning, everyone. Linked learning analytics helps districts track pathway progress, demographics, and improvement in student outcomes, including college and career readiness indicators, with data elements that are aligned to the state priorities within the LCAP. These metrics will help pathways, schools, districts, and regions identify success in access, opportunity, and outcomes in high school linked learning pathways, and ultimately in college and career success. The goal of the practices informed through these metrics is to ensure that more students, particularly our unrepresented students, complete high school, earn a college degree and/or professional credential, and enter financially sustaining and personally relevant careers. These are a sample of LCAP aligned data elements currently available in linked learning certification. This portion will include screenshots of the system. So you can see our indicators here on the dashboard, and remember how those are tied to what we saw, Oakland's measurable outcomes. This screenshot, for example, demonstrates chronic absenteeism in a pathway over 2 years and persistence in pathways. So there you see one pathway with the district doing particularly well and the school having a significant decline from year to year. For the stakeholder engagement portion, I'm going to kick it back to Anna to walk you through that.
Great, Sarah, thanks so much. I'm going to pop us back to goal number 1 just for a moment here, and just to kind of piggyback on what Sarah was saying in terms of the linked learning analytics system really assisting districts in communicating kind of where their status is on their linked learning implementation, and to provide kind of a base for conversation in the upcoming years of how that might be enhanced. So again, we have the 4-year cohort graduation rate, participation in EAP, and those are all within our data system currently. So we have A to G completion, CTE course completion, CTE concentrator pathway enrollment, dual enrollment, English language proficiency, and of course advanced placement examination scores as well. So providing a lot of different opportunity to illustrate and again, drive conversations around some of these goals and implementing them. Stakeholder engagement within the LCAP. As required within the LCAP process, the school board and district must consult with teachers, principals, administrators, school personnel, local bargaining units of the school district in developing the LCAP. Within the LCAP itself, districts must also describe in their LCAPs the steps they took to engage parents and pupils and the community, and how this engagement contributed to developing the LCAP. While it's quite a lift for the school district, we've heard from many districts and county offices of education that this has actually been a process that's brought their community together and has been a mechanism to really clarify and be transparent about their future goals and future activities. We've seen a few different strategies across the state to utilize the LCAP to support linked learning. A couple examples of note. One of them that happened in Oakland was providing themes or topics for the stakeholder meeting. So on March 19th in 2016, Oakland Unified held an LCAP stakeholder meeting for the public, for the parents. Everyone was welcome, just on linked learning. So they were able to really provide an opportunity to share with the public what is this big investment that they've made over several years and how they expect it to transform the lives of their students and their families as well. You'll see across the state different stakeholder sessions be themed differently. Sometimes they're around a particular student subgroup, sometimes they're around a particular goal, and those can vary as well. But there's quite some leeway with how districts can structure. There's quite some flexibility there. The second piece is, okay, so now what? We've put all this blood, sweat, and tears into developing, in many cases, hundreds of pages of an accountability plan. How can we really use that to the best of our ability outside of the education space? We've heard, for example, in Southern California, a couple districts have really demonstrated and articulated within their LCAP that they are preparing their students, they are preparing their high school students for particular occupations and as a result, particular certifications. They've used that plan and that articulation, that portion of the plan, and taken those pages in hand to employers to say, look, we're making this investment in our students to make sure that they're talented and trained to be able to perform successfully within your industry, within your business, and starting a conversation there around work-based learning and further industry partnerships. The same can go for post-secondary partners in terms of the college readiness piece. So you can articulate, for example, we saw earlier in the goal slide, well, we're preparing our students to a point where they'll be able to perform proficiently within the A to G course sequence, within AP and IB courses, within the EAP as well. Would you consider, discussing a dual enrollment or a concurrent enrollment partnership to start to open up those opportunities a little bit earlier and really supplement their learning, perhaps with courses that you couldn't offer on the school site previously. And the last piece, and possibly the most important one, is continuing to identify components within the LCAP that support college and career readiness. And the example that I would just again point to is the one we discussed earlier, where all of a sudden we were looking at a page about parent engagement, but linked learning came up again as an opportunity for personnel in a different office to really support pathway implementation. Our last page here, our resources page. As Sasha mentioned earlier, this PowerPoint will become available very quickly after the webinar. The California School Dashboard is where anyone can go and type in a school site name or a district name and see how they're performing on some of the state indicators that have been previously identified. Not all of them are complete, however. The college and career indicator performance data will not be available, I believe, until the fall. Last year, the Linked Learning Alliance developed an LCAP resource. So this is a resource that contains language. Some of what you're seeing here, examples from Oakland Unified and other districts, but also language that helps articulate the vision of linked learning on a district-wide level. And I will also take this opportunity to note that the language not only could be applicable or useful within a district LCAP, but also on individual school sites. Specifically the SIPSA, the Student Plan for Student Achievement, which all school sites are required to complete. Many of the Oakland school sites, as you know, are implementing linked learning, and a lot of similar language is within that resource. If you're looking to guidance on student supports, Council for a Stronger America has put out some climate recommendations of how to really advance and ensure an adequate school climate within your LCAP, and provides a lot of recommendations on student supports. And lastly, at EdTrust West, we have a lot of budgeting and equity resources. So a lot of templates on how to structure a district budget, and also how to begin to understand and dive into a district budget if you are a stakeholder or community member, and additionally, how to continue to ensure and advance equity through your LCAP. If you're looking for a database of all the LCAP LCAP plans, excuse me, those will be on lcapwatch.org as well. we hope that you've been starting to think of some questions. We know that we haven't covered every single thing, every single element pertaining to LCAP development and implementation. So we're starting to see some questions pop up, and we encourage them to continue popping up here. Let's see. Let's read through a couple for a moment. So a common question that we've been hearing is around the, I'll say, the strong presence and representation of college readiness indicators and career indicators being either absent or underrepresented. Since this particular document is structured around measurable activities, I will say that amongst many of the district LCAPs that we've looked at, there aren't too many career readiness indicators that are being articulated within them. I want to really emphasize that that does not mean that career readiness and career preparation activities are not happening within districts or within career pathways. Right now, the most consistent indicator or metric that we're seeing is the completion of a CTE pathway sequence. Right now, many work-based learning data collection, and Sarah can pop in here as well, mechanisms aren't particularly sophisticated or formalized, and that is a pretty strong component as to why you won't see the career readiness indicators and measures formally called out or articulated within the LCAPs due to the lack of data.
I would just add that there are a lot of districts, though, who are beginning to think about this and trying to come to really concrete ways of tracking work-based learning to measure what we know is really important around career readiness.
There's another question about, can you identify how many people in each of these areas do they have linked learning instructional coaches? They do have instructional coaches. I think that's in a different place in the LCAP. Actually, let me backtrack. Under the Office of Post-Secondary Readiness, there is a few lines for instructional coaches, but in a different area of the LCAP, it's really you'll see an increased focus on instruction and teacher capacity. The office that we particularly focused on had to do with a lot of the activities that are outside of the classroom that really make linked learning happen. Still scrolling through. Any other questions?
So we have a comment from the head of our Equity Council, Liz Guillen, that she'd like us to share with everybody on the call. And so I'll just read that since it's a little tricky for us to unmute an individual. So Liz Guillen writes, what Anne is saying is so critical. Not saying there are no career readiness actions happening, but not seeing them in the LCAP. This is what's critical in demonstrating that actions are being planned for the increased, improved approach as required with the use of S&C funds. Parents, students, also required to be consulted, need to see this so they can distinguish from regular CTE programs that do not have all four pillars. So thank you for sharing that, Liz.
Sorry, so we're still here. We're still reading through some of the questions. Please keep them coming. Esther, you've submitted a couple questions about the linked learning instructional coaches, and it says, can you identify how many people in each of these areas? Can you specify what you mean by these areas? They do have linked learning instructional coaches, I believe, on the school site and also at the district level. The exact number, I'll have to dive into the plan to check, but I can pull that up for you. There we go. Yeah, I can pull up the plan just for a moment here, and I'll say that also that they're not all full-time work-based learning coordinators. While I look that up for Esther, please keep the questions coming.
We'll also post in the chat what Liz's comment encouraging the actual documentation of the goals and the strategies, so you can all get Liz's input through the chat function. And for folks who also want to just post a comment for others to see, you can post this in the chat function, so we have a thread there in addition to our Q&A.
Some of the questions earlier, there are 7 full-time work-based learning liaisons and 1 work-based learning coordinator. There's a couple more site liaisons for work-based learning coordinators as well. And while I do recall seeing information and expenditures related to instructional coaches, it doesn't look like they're within oh, there it is. Sorry, I found it. It is within the Office of Post-Secondary Readiness. It can be found on page 44 and 45 of Oakland's LCAP. Through supplemental and concentration funds, they've hired 6 full-time certificated coaches. And they're housed at, it looks like 6 different, or more than 6 sites across the district, and these coaches support pathway and linked learning teachers with best practices, so our teachers are able to provide effective support for our low-income foster youth and English learner population. And this is really how I would say that the state board was hoping that some of these funds would be structured. You have your base funding and then supplemental and concentration to really drill into and honestly access and target those students who really need the intensive support as well.
Looks like we're at the end of our questions. Let's give people a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Submit any.
Before we share out the PowerPoint, I'll add one more resource to the resource page, and that's going to be the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation's framework for career readiness. Let's see. All right, we have a question from an old friend that we miss in our day-to-day linked learning world very dearly, Jared Stallings, who says, any advice for those outside of California? Well, yes and no. I think that the really special thing about LCFF and the LCAP and why it really has the opportunity to so robustly support linked learning implementation is the fact that linked learning implementation truly varies from site to site, from district to district. It depends on your student population, your industry needs, your existing district resources, even, you know, tradition, staffing personnel, culture at the district. There are so many factors that go into developing, you know, a linked learning community and structured implementation. It looks so different, but it's really, at times, on a good day, equally effective at all our different sites. And what makes that possible is the fact that linked learning is a philosophical approach. It's not regimented. We know that, for example, an integrated program of study could be 4 years of concurrent enrollment classes. We know that it could be 4 years of AP classes. We know that it could be just 4 years of the A to G prep. So there's so many different, or it is, in most cases, it's a blend of all three. So what's really important as you're reviewing and discussing accountability is the flexibility. So we didn't get into this during this webinar today, but while there are 8 state indicators, there's also local indicators where sites have the choice of what are some particular topics for their students that they'd like to monitor and continue to communicate and divert particular resources towards. So it's really important that each and every school site has had the flexibility to review their own needs and areas and identify areas of improvement, and from there be able to divert those funds to best impact those students. And it gives the district the ability and flexibility to continue to evolve and to be a more rapid, quote unquote, rapid responder for their students. Any other questions? All right. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have any other webinar topics that you'd like to see us discuss, I think I'm going to make Sasha do one on the college and career indicator very, very soon, as that's supposed to be finalized or approaching finalization this fall. If there are any other questions, comments, concerns, or webinar ideas that you have, please forward them along to our team. And lastly, we are very much approaching convention season and convention development, preparation, and implementation in-house at the Linked Learning Alliance. We hope that you'll join us. First step is to save the date for February 12th to 14th in 2018. It'll be held in Anaheim, California. Christopher has assured us all many times that we will all be home for Valentine's Day dinner, so please don't let that deter you one bit. And if not, if you don't have a Valentine, there's Disneyland right there.
It's always Mickey.
Have a great Monday, everyone.